I'm Jeannie Lady, and I'm from Perth, and facing a development in Huron East. First of all, I want to say we're very grateful in Huron for the Huron East Council to pass an interim control bylaw to stop the development of a wind turbine project. One of the questions that I have is about health. And I'm wondering, I know you said there's several ministries represented here, the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Ministry of the Environment, and the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. Is there a representative from the Ministry of Health?
There is not a Ministry of Health representative here tonight.
Was there at other of your meetings?
I do not believe there has been to date.
I think that's a gross error. Many of the complaints that are coming through in the comments relate to health, and that's what my topic is. First of all, I'm going to question to your statement that it was Kevin that said it. It is well accepted that 40 decibels dBA is appropriate, and just as a person who wants to ask, by whom is it well accepted, and what does appropriate mean? If that was coming from the noise standards from 2008, I think it was October, I think that those are also in question. So just saying that something is okay because it's been there in the past doesn't necessarily make it right or appropriate or acceptable.
Sorry, your question with respect to the 40 dBA?
I'm saying the comment was in response to Kevin's statement that it is well accepted that 40 dBA is appropriate. And I am saying, by whom is it well accepted? And by what does it mean, appropriate? And it still questions where the 40 dBA came from, when 30 is the World Health Organization's measure. Now, I would like to leave that, and I'm going to go on to the question, the comment I have about health, the question. The public in Ontario, and that's in Ripley, and Shelburne, and Chatham, and in the United States, Wisconsin, and we've also heard from a study that's been done in Maine on 17 people, and it is by Dr. Nisselbaum, where there are current industrial wind turbines that are in operation, and they have documented significant health concerns related to industrial wind turbines. So the safe setbacks from industrial wind turbines can safeguard health. So where were the health studies that you used, and what were the credentials of the health researchers whom you used to determine the setback matrix that we saw on the slide, beginning with 550 for 1 to 5 turbines, etc.? I'm looking for the health studies, and I'm looking for the names of the researchers of those health studies.
Study that we've relied on in terms of how we arrived here are very much based on noise. The province of Ontario has used a 40 decibel. The 2008 study that we used was wind guidelines that we used were also based on further studies.
Could you name those studies? And I'm speaking specifically of health-based studies. I mean, it's one thing to have a measure of something clanging in an industrial setting, and it's another thing to have that industry standing in the middle of a field with a house right next to it. I'm asking for the names of the health studies and the researchers.
The noise is related to health, and it's one of the key issues that we have to regulate. The proposals that we're putting forward are not only for noise on the A scale, but it's also for low frequency noise and vibrations. And some of the studies that we've looked at are also corroborated by looking at the World Health Organization, etc.
I don't call the World Health Organization and etc. a specific reference. if there is somebody else in addition to the World Health Organization, could you name the person?
Yes, in terms of low frequency noise and vibrations, we've certainly heard from a number of people at our previous sessions and looked at the feedback that was given to committees such as by folks such as Dr. McMurtry.
One other thing, Bentley, with reference to the hell of the noise.
Thank you very much. If I could ask you to return to the end of the line and come back, if you don't mind.
Mine is still all related to that. It was Camperman and James, and I think that that's a very good study to read, a very good report to read on it.
Thank you.
And what Jeannie was saying at the very end, I'll just elaborate on that, because you're asking, I think it was Kevin was asking for input on the sea level sound. So it's Camperman and James. They've written about how to measure sea level sound, low frequency sound, and how different is the setback required for sea as opposed to B level. So the paper is called How to Site Wind Turbines for Noise. So just so you have that. And I guess, other than that, just my comment, the regulations guidelines for low frequency noise and infrasound are missing, therefore our public comments are impossible. And what is occurring on that?
Sorry, can you phrase your question?
I'm asking for low frequency noise and infrasound. There are no guidelines, so how do we comment on that?
Kevin, do you wish to talk about progress on the review?
Thank you for your questions. We understand that monitoring and addressing low frequency noise is a first here in Ontario. We believe it a first in Canada, and most likely a first in the world. So looking forward in developing the guidelines, we're looking for any input. I've actually, staff have mentioned to me the article that you were just raising, but any feedback that you have, any suggestions that you might have, this is really early stages in moving in this direction. We feel it's quite groundbreaking and an opportunity for the public to make any inputs and comments.
With the Huron East Against Turbines group, HEAT, and we've been trying to lay down some of that for the government. I want to acknowledge the fact that we have some responsible politicians in the audience. I'd like to acknowledge the Member of Parliament for Huron Bruce Ben Law, who's responsible enough to come here. I'd like to acknowledge our fantastic Mayor, Joe Seeley, who, with his council, passed an interim control bylaw in Huron East. And I'd really like to acknowledge Carol Mitchell. Where's Carol? Representative of Carol? A representative, just a representative of Carol Mitchell. Okay. As to waiving the 550 meter setback for the farmers, I think if I signed a waiver, perhaps I could drive without a seatbelt or without a helmet on a motorcycle. Okay, you just don't go heading into danger. You don't give people permission to get themselves into problems. My questions. On public notices, did I hear you say that for 1.5 kilometers and greater from a turbine site, there would be a newspaper ad, and then later say for or less some kind of ad? What happened with us is we got things dropped in our mailboxes. Some of us got them and some of us didn't. And then there was an article in the paper, and then on 4 business days' notice, they sent out another ad in the newspaper for an open house. This is not public consultation. We want registered letters, okay, so that we know about these things that are going to happen. The proponents and the government have to let us know in a responsible way, and that should be by registered mail. That's one comment.
Sir, if I could just ask you to bear in mind the fact that we have others waiting, so if you could, thank you.
Briefly, the liability issue. Who's responsible if I get sick? I live in a house that's going to be, if this project goes through, 450 meters from a tower with a power line going 60 feet past my house. If I get sick from electrical pollution or noise or vibration, Why do I have to get sick first before action is taken? Why can you not do the darn study, find out what the problems are, and fix it? No one is prepared to think about burying the power lines. That's not an issue. You're going to put them up there in the air, 16 feet from my house, and when I get sick, maybe I can fight, and maybe you'll bury the lines.
Thank you. We're going to take your question as relating to health studies. Again, it's been somewhat covered, but Kevin has something else to add.